absolutely fantastically without any hitches at all, didn't it? Perhaps
if you say so, John.
So please keep your fingers firmly crossed for tonight. So this meeting will be recorded. So we need to make, Catherine's doing that. All parish councillors have previously been sent papers they need in preparation for tonight by email, and sending the papers digitally seems to work very well. We hope that from time to time during the meeting we'll be able to show a copy of the agenda on the screen. And it's not our plan to do any muting as we go along, but please try to ensure that only one person speaks at a time as far as possible, and that everyone's responses are kept fairly brief. This will enable us to move through quite a large agenda at a brisk pace. The councillors will vote by a show of hands, and members of the public will have the opportunity to speak during the public forum as usual. If we're cut off for any IT reason, well, Andy's here, thank goodness. But if there is a power cut or anything like that, we'll have to play it by ear. But if one of us is cut off, we should be able to log back in using the link that Catherine has sent us. We also plan to adjourn for a minute or two just before 8 o'clock, so that we can participate in the clap for carers and the NHS. So that's my preamble done. So if we can get cracking and move on to the first item on tonight's agenda, which is, does that cover everything, Catherine? I think we've, okay.
Yeah, great.
First item is the election of officers. For the chairman.
I nominate you, John.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
I'll third
it.
And me.
Unanimous.
Yeah, done.
No escape, John.
Well, can I just say, actually, thank you very much for that. But this will be my 10th year as chair, and I seriously do think 10 years is enough. This will, when I complete this next year, it will be 10 years. So we'll have to think hard about future. So thank you for that. Now, nominations for vice chairman. I nominate Phil.
I'm happy to second Phil.
Yeah,
I'd love to support that motion.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, I actually sort of anticipated that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my signed declaration of office, and Phil will do the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item is apologies for absence. Catherine?
Just Penny Barham, who's got a work training course tonight.
And we did have an email from Terry
Yeah.
late on to say that he would like to have come along, but he's not able to. Okay, thank you. Now our public forum session. Would anyone like to say anything in the public forum?
I've got a couple of things.
Great.
A couple of things to do with the village hall. We have a new website which Richard West, John's son, has helped us to put together, and it's a much more modern looking site built on a much more stable and robust platform which we can update more easily. And that's ready to look at now if anyone wants to go and have a look. So we're hoping that that's going to be a much better sort of shop window for the village hall in terms of you know, attracting weddings and business meetings and that sort of thing. So that's that. The other thing is that I applied a couple of weeks ago for a business hospitality sector grant for the village hall because we were a little bit concerned about lack of income due to the fact that the village hall's shut. We couldn't do any weddings, can't do any meetings, can't even do any normal village events. So I was successful in that, fortunately, and yesterday we received £10,000 from West Suffolk Council.
Wow.
So
Brilliant.
Well done.
yeah. So we're financially secure now for the foreseeable future until things get back to normal. So thank you very much, West Suffolk Council. Yeah.
And the website looks fabulous. I just had a look. Lovely.
Yeah.
Really professional.
Good.
And well done to you, Andy. That's fantastic, applying and being successful with that. Don't spend it all at once.
No, we weren't. I mean, initially, we should have been contacted, actually, but we weren't. And the reason was that they're under the, I'm not sure they still are, but they were under the misapprehension that we were somehow owned by the church, which would have precluded us from any financial assistance. But once I'd cleared that up, we were fine. So we might need to just do a little bit of further work there to make sure that the council are clear about how we're organised, because we're nothing to do with the church. And one other thing, I just wanted to thank the parish council for assisting us in buying the new bench for the playing area, which has saved us the
Revolution has started.
investment.
We shall take over. Nice.
So just wanted to say thanks for the helping us with bench, and that's it from me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. Michael, Geraldine, Rosemary, nothing? Okay, thank you very much. We can move on. Karen, I'm conscious of your time. Are you okay for time, or would you like me to move you?
Are you okay if I go soonish?
Absolutely, yes. Whatever suits you, Karen.
Do you want me to go next, or do you want me to wait?
If you'd like to go next, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So you've had my report. I've just done a new one. So because of when your meeting is, you fall between my old report and my new report. So I've just done my new one today, but I haven't sent it to you. So I'll just I won't highlight anything of the old one, but because you've all had that. But I will just highlight a few things. You've seen that recycling centres have reopened for bookings only. And just today, they've had a reassessment of the types of vehicles that they're accepting. They are now taking car-type vans, which I think are like domestic pickups and very small vans. But it is still an appointment only. Pedestrians now are allowed to go and use it. One adult unload unless two adults are needed. No trade waste, no textiles, no reuse. And the other things I probably won't go through, but I will send this to you in the next day or so. Domestic abuse helpline is extended to offer around the clock support in Suffolk. Is the only other thing that I probably will highlight there. But Suffolk County Council has not furlonged anybody. They have reassigned them to COVID-19 duties, but they've managed to get up to date, well, not necessarily up to date, but clear some of the backlog of the highways issues. So if you have any highways issues outstanding, please send them to me or report them online and then send me the reference numbers, because we're getting some of the stuff that has been an issue for months and months and months cleared up during this time. So it's a window of opportunity when I think that there's a lull in terms of things happening at the council, and some of the officers are able to pick up stuff that they haven't been able to do previously.
Thank you.
So that's probably all I've got to report. Any questions or anything anybody would like to raise?
Ros, would you like to just mention to Karen what's going on with the Havebury parking? It might be of interest to her.
Yes, please do.
I think you're on mute, Ros.
Okay, right. So they contacted Catherine at the end of last week, saying that they were now available for a meeting. So I am just about to write back to them to say that with a selection of dates for next week and the following week. But I was just proposing to meet him with the parish council representatives, because I don't want to take up any more of your time. I think if we need you to weigh in with some trenchant observations, we'll contact you. But we thought we could probably handle him on our own.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. You'll just let me know. If you need me on the telephone, depending on when your meeting is, give me a ring.
Okay, that's very kind of you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
All right.
Karen, I was just going to ask that the backlog that they're doing at the moment, would that include road signs which have been damaged and have been long-standing issues?
So if they are road signs that are mandatory road signs, then yes, it would. If they're road signs that are non-mandatory, then that is still the policy that they are not being replaced unless they are mandatory. And mandatory are give way, stop, those sorts of things.
Oh, right.
If they're finger point or bend signs.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
What sort of sign is it?
It's the one down by the church. I think it's a bend sign, I think.
Is it a chevron?
No, I don't think so. It's been missing for about 3 years now.
Right, so that is something
it has been followed up a few times, but we've always been told it's not within the budget or whatever.
That's right. So that is still the case. So the policy changed last year or the year before to only replace the mandatory signs. So that is not considered a backlog. That is considered a change in policy. So I'm sorry, I don't.
No, that's fine. As long as we're clear on it, that's fine.
Yeah, that won't be covered unless there is another change in policy and that they're going to pick that up. I mean, I can apply to fund that through my highways locality budget, but I have £6,666 for 19 villages a year. And those sort of signs are anything between £500 and £1,200. So having funded change in speed limits for villages that have a 60 mile an hour all the way through them, and that's cost £6,000, I would be hard pressed to justify a bend sign for one parish when that could be a sixth of a change in speed limit.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, sorry.
Has anyone else any questions for Karen while she's with us? No. No, thank you, Karen. Thank you for everything that you do for us.
All right, lovely. And John,
please,
if you would like to have a catch up privately on the telephone, I'm around this week if you wanted to give me a ring.
okay, thank you, Karen.
Okay, all right.
Please feel free to go or stay as long as you want.
I'm going to go and have dinner with my family and then join another meeting.
Good, good.
Okay, take
nice
care.
To see you, Karen. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, what we'll do now, we'll go back to item 3.2, which was in the public forum section, which is our an update on the community response to COVID-19. And I've asked Giles if he would just outline what we've done as a support group very briefly. Would you mind doing that, Giles?
No, so I think pretty much as soon as the COVID-19 issue appeared, we formed a core team consisting of John, Ros, Phil, Andy, Evershed and myself. We then constructed a paper communication that Andy kindly posted through every door in the village. We then created a WhatsApp group that then consisted of multiple people. We've held weekly meetings. There have been weekly drops of Vegemite and bread. There has been the issuing of the voice in terms of immediate communication. and the support group has actively been meeting on a weekly basis and providing support to the community as and when required. And it seems to be working very well.
Thank you very much, Giles. Has anyone wish to add anything or ask Giles anything? No. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Giles. Item 4 is our declaration of interest. Has anyone anything to declare here? No, good. And the dispensations will be the same. And then on to the minutes. We've all had a copy of the March Parish Council meeting. Is everyone happy with those? I take it everyone is.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the appointment of representatives for the next 12 months. Christabel, would you be happy enough to carry on with looking after the village greens and so on?
Yes, very happy.
Thank you. That's great. And would James be happy to carry on as the? Do you think? Have you spoken to him?
I have. Yeah, I just about remembered to ask him if you wanted. I assume you're asking about tree warden.
Yes, please.
Yes, he's happy.
Thank you. And would you thank him from us all?
Yeah, will do.
Thank you. And Penny's not here, but I believe she would be quite happy to carry on looking after the footpaths. Play equipment. I can't remember who did this last year, Catherine, but I'll put my name down for that if that's okay. And also liaising with Salk, who I do speak to from time to time. On to the report.
Hang on, there's highways,
Oh,
which has been missed off.
we're going to do those in the reports, Ros, if that's okay.
Representatives, I'm willing to continue if just
Thank
to
you.
confirm.
Thank you, Ros. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry if I've confused matters there. We've had Karen's report and we've spoken to Karen. Terry's not able to be with us tonight. He emailed us this afternoon. Have we had anything from the constabulary specifically for us, Catherine?
Now you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they no longer produce a report. I put in the list of stuff, the link to their website, where there is a very kind of Spartan report which covers our area, but never really seems to have anything particularly relevant to our area.
That's fine. There is quite a bit of information on the Suffolk County Council website from the police about activities in Suffolk, if anyone's interested enough to have a look. Now moving on to the reports from the different parish councillors. In Henry first on communications. If you're happy to continue with this responsibility, Henry, I take it you are.
Yes, I'm happy. Yep, absolutely.
Fabulous. Anything to report, Henry?
No, not really. Just to say, I suppose the silver lining to all this COVID-19 business is it's dragged us all into the 21st century in terms of this kind of communication. So I think we're all doing pretty well, aren't we, really? So
yes, well said,
communications
Henry.
around the village have been good. No thanks to me, I hasten to add, but it's all working pretty well.
And
Catherine, did you mean to share your screen? Sorry to interrupt.
I was trying to put the agenda up, but maybe I've done put something else up. I'll just I've taken it down.
You say?
Was it?
Yeah.
we caught a brief glimpse of it. But,
you can ask for it if you want it. I won't attempt doing that again.
I think one other thing that Andy mentioned, Henry, was that we're very lucky. Anne East is going to apparently, I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, she said that she will hopefully continue with a village voice, perhaps on a monthly basis, which is great news. To sort of replace the old Hawstead printed journal.
No, that's very good. Now, the I suppose the only other thing, there are a couple of people in the village like Ethel and Nancy who, I'm sure there are more in the main part of Hawstead, who haven't got the sort of technology to view that. So I have been printing out the Village Voice, but I'm my particular type of printer, the cartridges are quite difficult to get hold of at the moment. So going forwards, I don't know whether that's sustainable because they're quite long, the Village Voices now, aren't they? Which is great. I'm not knocking it, but I don't know whether anybody got any thoughts on whether we should continue to keep printing for the people who don't have that capability, or what. I don't really know.
It may
We
be
don't have a village printer anymore, do we?
No. It may be someone in the village has got a sort of sizable industrial size printer, and that they would volunteer to print them off, and maybe we could reimburse them for the toner and for the paper.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing it generally. It's just I'm just a bit short of ink at the moment. So
yeah, no, it's
Could we
understandable.
not, with obviously we've just been lucky enough through Andy to get a grant. Could we not buy a printer if there's a need?
Well, we did have one for I'd guess for 7 or 8 years, Phil. We had it on a lease, and that worked well when we printed off our Hawstead Journal. But it was decided in the end that it wasn't economic to keep it. The editors of the Hawstead Journal had been doing it for so many years. I think they were sort of disappointed no one else stepped forward to take over. So in the end, the printed version of the journal petered out.
Right.
So we were paying for a printer that was sitting in the village hall doing nothing.
I mean, I don't mind printing them off. It's just at the moment I haven't got a whole load of print capability. But maybe we can revisit that in a week or two. Hopefully
That'll all change, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it should do. Yeah.
Could we perhaps take it in turns? I mean, if it's only Ethel and Nancy.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I'm doing. I haven't looked at the sort of wider part of Hawstead. I don't know if anybody's.
I mean, I've got the printer. I've got the PC printer here, and you pay for the ink, so I could do bits and pieces of printing. I know I'm not on the spot, but
I think that's a good solution, Catherine.
Yeah.
I think we're only talking about half a dozen copies, even less than that maybe. So that would be, we could get them to Henry and he could dish them out, or we could take them straight to Nancy and Ethel.
Yeah, perhaps I'll find out. I mean, does anybody know anybody else in the wider part of Hawstead who might like the Village Voice but hasn't got the technology to look at it?
Well, Andy did that survey, didn't he, of connectivity, and he felt that he had contacted everybody who wanted to be contacted.
Yeah. Well, perhaps I'll just okay. Well, let's not worry about it too much then. I'll try and print it off when I can for Ethel and Nancy, but if not, I mean they're not too bothered about it. I think it'd be fine. Yeah. Let's not get too bogged down with that.
Thank you, Henry. There's nothing else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Thank you,
Henry. And on the Village Greens, Christabel?
There's not a lot really. We've got the mowing quote later on in the agenda. The only thing I was going to mention was that we have had some people doing bits of mowing for us on a voluntary basis during COVID-19. So I think you mentioned, John, it'd be great to send them a thank you letter. So as far as I'm aware, I think Ben and Chris Pamplin have done some mowing outside the village hall and the path around the green. I think they've done that at least twice.
Yes.
So that would be good to thank them. Also, Danny Lebon did some mowing outside the village hall. Although I think the length of the grass was a bit much for his mower, so I'm not quite sure how far he got, but he definitely gave it a go. So I can provide contact details for him if necessary. Somebody also has been mowing at least a couple of times on Pound Green. Somebody told me it might have been Clive, but I'm not sure. Does anybody know?
Yes, he did. he did do it at least once. He did comment on that, didn't he, at one of our volunteer meetings, I think.
Oh, right. So if we
Good.
could send Clive a thank you as well by email or whatever method we're using. Is anybody aware of anybody else who's done anything similar on the greens around the village?
No.
Okay. So that's all for me then.
Okay, and we'll talk about the estimate later on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christabel. Oh, I don't know whether it's at this point. Perhaps we ought to talk about the vehicle parking on the green behind the bus shelter still. At the last meeting, we resolved to have an informal word with the owners of the meadow. For various reasons, that didn't happen. And I would say the point has come now, perhaps, that we ought to consider the parish council drawing up a letter to be sent to the owners of the meadow. Now, I wonder what people have to say there. And also, in a few minutes' time, we need to break off for our clap for carers. Catherine has sent me a little prompt to that effect, so thank you for that, Catherine.
Okay.
Shall we continue that in a few minutes' time and give everyone a chance to think about it?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Come on, Geraldine, shall we go and clap for the carers? Are we all happy to do that? Do you want to do it here,
Yes.
or do you want to do it?
Are we
outside?
all logging off?
No.
I'd just
Oh, don't do that.
I'd stay logged in, but maybe just stretch your legs
I
for a
think so,
moment.
just for a few minutes. What is it written? Did you know this was coming, Henry? Or did
No,
you-
no, I just written that. There you go.
No one would hear you clapping up there, Ros, would they?
No, this is the point.
No, no,
We
no.
don't, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Okay. Well, we don't always. We've done it a few times, but a couple of people said that they'd like to do it, hence what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Ray played Over the Rainbow for the Suffolk Youth Orchestra.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But yeah, he's missed so much music stuff because of this COVID thing. It's a real shame.
It'd be nice to hear him playing in the village, Ros, at some
Yeah, I'll encourage him to
yeah,
perhaps
it'd be nice.
whenever we meet again.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Think about that letter, Ros. I'm always reluctant to send letters, but I think we've got to the point that we've spoken to them before, and maybe we need to do something.
Well, I mean, we can't have one set
No.
of people just flouting bylaws, can we? It's not fair.
My concern is that the people at the cycle shop will start saying, "Hang on, it's one rule for."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Henry's note. What do you think of Henry's note, Roz?
Hilarious.
Did you get that email, Ros? The
Which
first
one?
one bounced back with the paperwork in it. I've had 2 bounce back from you.
Really?
Yeah. r.king@sotton.ac.uk just
That's
says
correct.
that the attachment is too large to send.
Really?
It's a single PDF.
That's absurd, because I get all sorts of stuff through on that account.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I don't quite know how I can reduce the size of that actually for you just at the moment. I think most of the correspondence in there I've circulated in bits and pieces anyway.
Okay, fine. Okay, all right. Don't worry then.
I like your leaving message, Henry, by the way.
Oh. Do you like my cap? Oh, where are we?
Is that Haley's cup, Henry?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're actually making quite good time with the agenda. I think a lot of the stuff on the second page we can rattle through almost en bloc. A lot of the items about reviewing standing orders and the asset register and the review of policies, we'll be able to get through pretty briskly. So we'll crack on in a moment. Are we all hit back here? Is everybody here? We're all here?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, everybody's here. We're in the item 7.5 on the village greens, and I mentioned the vehicle that's consistently parked behind the bus shelter, and it's creating that track, a semicircular track all the way around. So we need to see if we can get this sorted at long last. So the proposal was that we write a carefully worded letter to the owners of the meadow, which Catherine could couch in suitable language, I'm sure. What do we all think about that?
If I can just put my bit in here, John. I mean, we were going to talk later on about the register of assets, and obviously this comes under one of those assets that we have. And my idea behind, you know, putting it as an agenda item was really understanding what we own and the responsibilities we've got with the land, with regarding ongoing maintenance and governance. And I suppose that really comes in, you know, to this situation we have with this guy and the parking on the green quite nicely. So yeah, we need to do something. That's the starting point. But he's been asked before, nothing happens. So let's start again and see if we can negotiate. But then we'll have to take a view on it, depending on what sort of response we get. But while we're talking about this, it's also that the driveway onto the bike shop as well, bike shop land. Do we write to them as well? There's a whole issue around, what's happening with the land that we're responsible for. I mean, overhanging trees in Bell's Lane. Do we have to have a look at that to see if we've got any responsibilities with regard to overhanging branches, things like that? Do we do an audit of we've done the audit? Do we have a walk round to see what's needed to be done to keep us legal? That's where I'm coming from, really.
Well, I think we do that. And James, our tree warden, is always advising on what trees need to be pruned or whatever to keep them safe. So I think that aspect of it is undertaken already. The question is, how do we get some movement if we've written to him before, as we have? I don't think we can be seen to condone it, because otherwise, how can we stop anybody else parking on the green? It's got to be one rule for everyone, not one rule.
Can I just clarify, because I can't remember, have we spoken to Danny and Emma about this at all? I know we haven't formally, but have we had any informal chats?
Yeah, well, we haven't written to Danny and Emma Hatton about the vehicle that's being driven onto the village green behind the bus shelter by someone who I believe uses their field to graze his animals of one sort or another. He appears every day and takes feed of some sort out of the back of his pickup truck after parking it on the village green behind the bus shelter, and then walks to feed the animals and then returns about half an hour later. That's a daily occurrence. It's either him or his wife. Now, we haven't written to Danny or Emma or to this individual about that at all. What we wrote to Danny and Emma about quite a while ago was 10 years ago, I think it probably was now, about the access to their field.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, what I was trying to get at really was, if we were to write them a carefully worded letter,
yes.
I couldn't remember if we'd already broached the subject verbally.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get at, would they be surprised if they get a letter?
I don't think they should be surprised. It's been quite a while since we've spoken to them. I'd guess at probably a couple of years or so, but we did speak to them at least once, and also we attempted to speak to the gentleman concerned at least once, together with his partner at least once. So everybody's aware of the request to not drive onto the green. It may seem sort of almost churlish to some people to think we're making a fuss of it, but we have to be consistent and to stop people from driving on the village green.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we can attempt to, a politeness, I suppose, write to them, and then we take a view on it if it goes nowhere. And then we'd have to look at ways of stopping the vehicle going onto the green. Do we put a tree, a big lump of wood there by the bus shelter itself and the entrance? That's another conversation, isn't it? But I think we should try and negotiate first.
Yeah.
Can I just ask what the response was when it was verbally discussed?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Giles, and it is quite a while ago, they said that they would speak to the guy concerned who rents the meadow from them or uses their meadow, and they would put a stop to it.
What can I ask? What's the sort of practical alternative? I mean, how much of a I'm not saying he's in the right, he or she is in the right, but is there a sort of a practical alternative to what they're doing?
Yes, they were. It was suggested both to Danny and Emma and to the guy concerned that he simply parks his vehicle on Pat's driveway, and that would mean that he's not driving across the village green. And Danny and Emma thought that would be a reasonable solution, and for quite a while the chap himself did it, and but then he reverted back to driving across the green.
Pat is okay with this, is he?
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's very evident, isn't it? The route that he takes is carved into the green now, isn't it?
It's becoming more and more evident, Phil. Yeah.
I suppose the alternative would be to just put some logs or something to block the access that he's taking. But I suspect that what might happen is they might just get moved aside.
Well, heavy logs.
Yeah.
No, I think we need to write to him and point out that we've had informal conversations previously about this, and that they did agree to not do what they're doing, and we must ask them please to desist.
Can we just perhaps mention in that letter that we do acknowledge that they have got a license to cross the green from the road by the bus stop to
on foot?
Well, I think they've got the license allows them vehicular access, doesn't it? But it's on a very specific route.
It is, yes, it is, yeah, straight.
So
route.
I think it would, we don't want to be seen to be saying to them, you cannot drive to your meadow, because they have a license that allows them to do that. It's just that he's not taking the right route.
Yeah, this chap isn't taking the right route at all. He's just finding the easiest route so that he can stop the shortcut to the gate and to the meadow.
So if he drives the route he's meant to drive,
yeah,
you do that every day.
Well, he can. I think the license says he can do it as long as he doesn't. It's something like disturb the surface of the green or something like that.
Damage the green, Henry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Which, to be fair, is tricky because there is a low point nearer to his entrance where it gets quite boggy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is quite difficult, all in all, really. And I'm the last one that really wants to start writing to anyone in the village. I can assure you, but I think if the letter's gentle but firm at the same time, and just reminding them that we have had the conversation before, I think that would be okay.
Just attacking it from the other angle. So obviously you say you don't want to set a precedent. Is it causing distress to anybody? Is it? I'm just wondering the other way. Are we allowed to grant him some sort of dispensation? I'm not suggesting we need to or we want to. I'm just in terms of the sort of precedent setting thing.
Yeah. Well,
the point is the regularity of the use, isn't it? Because we do allow very, very occasional driving on the green for parking purposes, for special events at the hall and that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's the fact of driving this route every day and making...
It's
actually making a mess of it, is it? I mean, I haven't seen it.
It wouldn't be fair, Henry, to say that it's but the tracks are evident. They're very evident. If you go, you wouldn't miss it at all. And we can't have people driving on the green there or anywhere else on the green, sort of carving out tracks. We have to be sort of consistent about it. As soon as you allow someone to do it, they'll take a mile, really, which is what's happening here.
Okay, yeah, all right, yep. Yeah, no, just sort of...
If there's an approved, agreed route, and he can use that because he's got to do that, that's fine. So we show him that route and agree that's the way to access the field. End of, isn't it?
Well, the owners will be able to clearly show him where that is. Phil, we went through all this at least sort of 8-10 years ago, and we had discussions with Danny and Emma at the time, and they're well aware of where that direct route is. It's a straight line,
Right.
at the Lawshore side of the bus shelter, directly to the gate, and that's it. But it'd be easier, I think. The ground is more even if he simply parks on Pat's driveway.
Yeah.
Okay, are we all happy with that as far as we can be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Catherine?
Does anybody object to that? Because say now, I can't really tell just from
Sure.
seeing.
I mean, I'm a great live and let live sort of person, but I mean, if the consensus is write a letter, and I know you would write a tactful one,
Yeah,
then I don't have any objection.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's the key thing. It needs to be really tactful, especially given the history.
I'll do my best.
From what you said, it does sound like at one point this was happening, and it's almost as if the focus went away, so things reverted back. But it does sound like at one point, after your initial conversation, things were going in the right direction.
Absolutely, yes. I almost got to the point of, because I did go and speak to him once, and I got, shall we say, not the best of receptions, shall we say that, and that's discouraged me from discussing it again, Giles.
Fair enough.
While we're talking about this, we talked about the Maglia Rosso as well. Their access is recognised and approved, I presume.
Sorry that's a long story, Phil. Actually, it's a very long story.
What point I'm making, John, is that if we're going to do it for the guy in Danny and Emma's field, we must be the same as anything else. Now, is that
Yeah, Phil, you're right. You're right. And what it boils down to is they have got a what's the phrase? It's a prescribed. They've got like 20 years established use.
Yeah.
Or I think it's for agricultural purposes. It says. And what's been agreed is that they can do it as long as they don't damage the sward.
Right. Okay.
But and also they can't put down any hard surfacing.
Okay. Fine.
Is that, John? Are you happy that sums it up?
Yes, I think so. It's a very complicated issue, and if I recall correctly, we took considerable amounts of legal advice, even from the barristers at the National Association of Local Councils. It became that complicated as there was the sort of mention of sort of solicitors and all this sort of thing, Phil, which we didn't want to go anywhere near that for obvious reasons. But it's quite something about, must have been about when they first moved to the village. But we resolved it in the end. We resolved it.
Yeah, and they took their hard surfacing away, which was what had caused the issue in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, they do have some right to use that access.
So in essence, then Maglia Rosso are okay. We just have to sort of ratify the entrance exit for the field. So we don't need to do anything with Maglia at all then.
Are Maglia Rosso using that other entrance?
No,
because they've got their main entrance, the pub entrance.
I've not seen them use it. It's probably some sort of emergency exit, possibly. I don't know, but I've not seen it. No.
I think that was disputed whether they got a prescriptive right of way there. But the key thing, as Christabel said, was we didn't want them and didn't feel we could permit them, as it was registered green, to put down hard standing, which damaged the surface of the green, and they did eventually take it away.
But they have got a drain cover or an electric cover there, haven't they, John? On that
I'm not sure what it is, Phil. Something has appeared,
Yeah.
sort of in the over the last year or so.
It
So-
could be, I would suspect that might possibly be foul drainage from the new
You could be right, Christabel.
glamping
Yeah,
pods to the foul sewer.
you could
I'd
be
guess.
Right. You could be right. Yeah.
Or water.
So just to clarify, we haven't got an issue with the bike shop. It's just purely the field, access to the field. Yeah.
No access to the. No issue with the bike shop. No, not with Maglia Rosso. No.
And we focus on a letter to Danny and Emma. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Just so I know.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. Okay, Catherine, with that now.
Sorry,
If you don't-
Danny and Emma, or to the person that's visiting.
To Danny and Emma.
Right.
I'm just wondering, because of the hoo-ha there was last time, we wrote a letter to Danny and Emma. Is it, Catherine, I'm sure you will write a brilliant letter. I'm just wondering if we ought to, or at least somebody else, I don't know, John and Phil ought to see it before it goes, just to, okay.
I would, yeah, no, that's
But I
fine.
don't mean to offend, but I'm just very aware how it all went last time.
I don't want to start a hoo-ha.
Did you say offend, Christabel? Did I hear you say offend?
I did say
What sort of-
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
do we send it to, if we know this guy, do we send it to him and copy Emma and Danny in?
My view, Phil, for what it's worth, is that we should write to Danny and Emma.
Yep, right, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And just picking up on Christabel's point, I think actually if it's a parish council letter, we should all look at it before it's sent and comment on it,
Okay.
Yeah.
if I may say so.
No. No.
Spread the blame around a bit, if nothing else.
Thank you, Henry. Shall we move on? Okay.
Yeah.
Footpaths. Penny's not here. As far as I know, all the footpaths are clear. Highways and safety. If we could perhaps rename this the roads, Rod, would that be okay? If we sort of,
Yeah.
Because I was thinking perhaps if we had you down as looking after the roads, and for safety, maybe we could make that one of Giles's responsibilities, because it could include things like the emergency plan in the village and so on. So would it be okay if we do that?
Yes, no problem.
Okay. So, Ros, would you just update us on what you said previously about this chap coming along to talk to us about?
Right. Well, also potholes. As Karen says, I've been amazed. The pothole I've been complaining about for months has been filled, although I'm not sure how long it's going to last. But I haven't been out very much, so I haven't noticed any others. But the reporting system, which is automatic and automated rather, for pothole reporting, is extremely good, and they do respond. In terms of the parking at the bottom of Wepstead Road, we're going to get a meeting sorted out for the next fortnight, I hope.
Great. Fabulous. Thank you for sorting that and arranging that, Ros. That'll be a good step forward.
Pleasure.
Giles, my suggestion was that we make your responsibility safety matters in the village, and I was thinking about things like the emergency plan and so on, if that's okay with you.
Certainly.
And talking of that, that's the next item on the agenda, together with the village survey. At the last meeting, we decided to defer both of these until things returned back to normality. What do you think about that, Giles? Do you think we should continue to defer both of those items, or should we crack on with them?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, the emergency plan has in itself almost come into fruition naturally. The one thing that probably hasn't is the survey, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't crack on with that, to be honest with you, unless anyone disagrees.
I'd be happy for us to crack on with that, Giles.
Yeah.
What does everybody else think?
Well, people have got time to fill them in, haven't they, John, at the moment?
Yep. Everybody else happy if we get going with that?
Yeah.
Okay, are we going to deliver that by hand then, Giles? Because we've got it pretty well ready, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, if someone could assist me with printing it, I'll quite happily make sure it's distributed.
There we are.
Yeah, I'll be in touch with you about that, about numbers and
Brilliant.
colour.
And just for safety, if you could just build 5% onto the amount you print. Just,
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's a good step forward, Giles. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I've spoken to Phil about this next matter. In addition to Phil being responsible for planning matters, Phil and I had a chat about an additional responsibility, which would be village improvements, enhancements, Phil.
Correct. Yeah, you did.
And you would be happy.
Congratulations, Phil.
Sorry?
Congratulations on your
It was a weak moment, Giles.
And so what I envisage there is really getting volunteers together to do many of the jobs that need doing around the village, and for Phil to crack on in organising the Jammy Dodgers and any other volunteers that want to help. So does that sound like an idea?
Yes.
Okay, well done, Phil. I'll put you down for that then. Thank you very much for volunteering. And Catherine, now your report.
You've all read it. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay.
Everybody happy with that? Good. Thank you very much, Catherine. And thanks for sorting out Zoom for us, Zoom Pro for us. Right, on to some of these other matters here. We're on 8.1 now, which is the renewal of our SALC and OSS subscription. We're all happy to continue with both of those?
Yeah.
Everybody is?
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yep.
And the purchase of the bench for the play area. Catherine, would you just explain this one, please?
I think the Community Council had been offered some locality funding towards the cost of a new bench, and they were hopeful that we might be able to purchase the bench for them so that we can reclaim the VAT back, which they couldn't do, just making the locality grant go a bit further. I've checked it out with SALC. I've circulated you the bit of advice which says that we can receive the grant ourselves and buy the bench and then gift it to the Community Council, and there is no problem with our doing that. So as long as you're happy to go down that route.
Absolutely.
We're all happy.
Yeah.
Well done, everyone. Thank you. And now the green maintenance quotes. Christabel, would you like to do this,
Yeah.
Christabel, or Catherine?
Yeah. I don't mind.
We did ask several people to tender. We've had one in, haven't we, Christabel? I think that's all we've had. And that has been a bit of an effort to get anything out of them. But they have now quoted. I think Christabel is happy with the way it's itemised, aren't you?
Yeah, well, they've done it as I set it out in my schedule. Their costs have gone up this year, and they did give us some warning that they were going to be putting their costs up this year. I think they've had a bit of a reassessment of how they cost things, probably. So overall, it's gone up by about 500 500, £600. Last year it was 1,386. And if we go for all elements of it this year, it's 1,977. With the biggest increase really being the 8, we normally have 8 cuts between beginning of April, end of March, through to October of the path around the green, all the various bits around the green outside the village hall, and the new footpath area. So I did put that down as staying with 8, but over a shorter length of time. So I don't know if you want to accept it as it is, or whether you want to go back and say, actually, we don't need 8 cuts because it's a shorter time period, in which case, I don't know how many you think we might get away with. So I'm open to ideas.
Yeah.
What's your instincts about it, Christabel? Should we only have 7 cuts, or are you happy to continue with 8? They're about 200.
I think we'd probably get away with 6, because I mean we've had very little rain, so obviously stuff's not grown that much. Normally we'd have had 1 at the beginning of April, probably 1 at the end of April, 1 in the middle of May. So if we went for 6, we're still probably going to get them closer together than we would have done in previous years. So that's a sort of compromise. And that would probably save us about 400, it works out about £200 a cut. So that would probably save us £400.
Sounds like a plan to me. What, is everybody in agreement with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Catherine, are you okay to go back to them and negotiate that with them?
Yeah, because they've been so late coming back to us, we've done some cutting ourselves, and we think that only 6 further cuts are required at this stage. That's it. Is that okay?
Yeah, so basically, it's six cuts for section 1 of the quote.
So they did one on Tuesday, I think, or yesterday.
Did they?
Yes, yes, they did. They were here.
You haven't accepted the quote yet.
They're in disarray.
They're also very hopeful.
It's a very generous freebie, isn't it?
Who knows, Giles?
Did they do all what they normally do?
Well, they were certainly parked on the. They cut outside the hall, made a good job of it all, and I believe they've been round the green. I haven't been out of the up to Pound Green, so I don't know whether that's been cut again. Or
well, it has actually, and I had just assumed that whoever did it the first time had done it the second time.
Yeah, I think that was the council. So
in light of that, it might just be 7 cuts. Let's see if we can get them down a bit.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Right, we've all read the package that Catherine sent to us to review the standing orders, the arrangements for other business, the appointments of outside bodies. I'll perhaps come back to the asset register, which Phil has raised, the confirmation of insurance cover, review of council subscriptions to other bodies, review of policies, review of expenditure under 137, and the meeting dates for 2021. Can I block those all together and assume that we've all read them and we're happy with them?
Yeah.
Good. If I may just return to the asset register, Phil quite rightly asked to have clarity on the village's assets, the greens, which greens were involved, and the rest of the assets that the parish council owns. And Catherine has said that she will draw up not only a list, but perhaps did you say a short?
Well, we have got a list of what the assets are, but for the land, it would be much better with a proper plan or set of plans.
Visual, yeah.
We've got it all sort of set in different bits and pieces of plan. So I think maybe with Christabel's help, I might be able to bring it together into a sort of short PDF or something which has a clear outline of the relevant bit of land, its boundary, and any kind of statutory designations on it, because some of our land is registered as under the Commons Registration Act. Yes, we've got different designations on different parts. So I do think that would be a really useful exercise to do, to bring that all together. But maybe that's a job for me over the next month or two when it's a bit quieter for the clerk.
So do you mean to sort of almost come up with a map showing where all our different assets are and what?
Well, I think particularly the land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what Phil was asking for. I think it would be no bad thing to actually have marked on part of that where all of these, you know, kind of grit bins and bits and pieces are. That sort of will tie in with a different set of plans which Penny uses when she goes around checking whether stuff is still there. So I think that could all be improved and made a bit clearer, and that could be the type of thing which we send out to new councillors upon induction, so they're clear from the outset what bits and pieces the council is responsible for.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Is that what you were after, Phil?
Basically, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's a good thing to do, and I'm happy to do that.
Right.
Great. Right, so moving on now to the next item, which is planning matters. Do you want to speak on about this at all, Phil? Or we've had the Maglia Rosso application refused.
Yeah, yeah, we have, or they have. I don't think the council, looking at it, have got an issue in principle. I think they had an issue with the look of what was being presented there. And I'm sure that if they revisit the application again and submit something else, with maybe consultation with the parish council, and I'm quite happy to go and talk to them, is to get rid of the containers, because the proposal they had last time was to leave the container there and just put another building next to it. Well, if they could get rid of the container and encompass the used bikes and the hire bikes they have in the container into a building and have a bigger building, but get rid of the container, I think that would be a win-win for everybody. We win for them and certainly us, because I don't want to be seeing a container on the field, you know, walking by. And I think they need a bit of guidance there.
And I think the planners also said that any application, the building would need to be of a much better standard than the sort of steel-clad farm building type shed that they proposed.
Exactly, it needs to almost look like an extension to the pub in terms of like a traditional barn, you know, timber-clad, and I'm sure the planners would go with that. Even if it's a bit bigger, it's all about being in keeping. And what they were presenting was not in keeping, and it was still had the container there. So, yeah, absolutely. If I see Barry's car there, I'll go and have a word with him.
And Melpost, the garage is still pending. At Melpost House, I think it is. Yeah. And also at 5 the Pound is still pending as well.
Yeah, that's probably due to staff working remotely and you know.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, cheers.
On to the finances. Again, I think we could probably group most of these together. But as far as the internal auditor's report is, I'd just like to thank Catherine for doing such a good job, and to get a glowing report from the SALC auditor. There were no problems at all as far as I could make out. So well done to you, Catherine, again. So if we go from 10.1 to 10.7, if we could do those on block. We've all looked at the accounts and the financial summaries and so on. Are we all happy to approve everything there?
Yep.
Giles?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Where's my thumbs up?
Okay, thank you. Are you happy with that, Michael? Oh.
I've muted him.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's got rid of the finances. There's nothing else that needs to be said there, Catherine, is there? I don't think.
Well, I don't quite know where this comes in, but Andy Parrott had put in a request for some fuel costs,
Okay.
but he only emailed me yesterday. It was about £31 or £32 worth of fuel for mowing round the saplings in the Millennium Field. He'd either used his equipment or the church equipment, I'm not sure. But could we
I wasn't sure if he was going to carry on doing that once we got our mowing contract up and running again.
I don't know.
Okay.
Does he need to do it if West
Well,
Suffolk are doing it?
I wouldn't have thought so, unless West Suffolk say that they can't get in between the trees with their mower.
No, I think we left plenty of space, didn't we? So they should be able to go.
I hope so.
through. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if that's the case, I mean, I wasn't aware that Andy thought it needed mowing. But I think my assumption was that he was mowing it during the COVID-19 business when the contract wasn't happening. I know he sort of said, I think he said he might mow it. Did he say 30 times?
Something like
In the year,
times, yeah.
which I mean, obviously that's a lot more than we do ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't really know that it needs that much.
Well, shall I just go back to him and clarify that the mowing contract has been agreed now, so we don't foresee that he'll have to mow? Could he let us have a note of any costs he's incurred to date?
To be sort of fair and open to him, if we could say, does he think it needs more than that, more than the mowing contract? I mean, and if so, why? Because if he's got a good reason to mow it more, then, you know, we need to be open to that. But certainly when we put the orchard in, there was no talk about the need for more frequent mowing.
Okay, I'll go and clarify that. If he has incurred some costs in petrol, are you able to authorise us to reimburse him in principle up to a certain amount?
Yeah.
Fine by me.
Yeah,
should we say up to 35 quid, but I'll find out a bit more information about it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that much because I think that he's only mowed a few times so far. But the point is that the 30 odd pounds would cover him right throughout the rest of the season. But you know, to reimburse any costs that he's incurred so far, I think, and have that discussion with him.
Okay.
Right.
I'll find out a bit more about that. I'll email you with whatever the outcome of that is, and if he is out of pocket, we'll be able to reimburse him.
Okay. Michael must know that I'm about to speak in my chair. Oh, he's back again. Oh, Mike, you don't know what you've let yourself. I'll be quick. I'd like to just say a few words. It is the where we should be having our two meetings, the annual parish meeting and the annual parish council meeting. So I'll rattle through this as quickly as I can. I'm just going to say that I'm very pleased that the parish council has continued in spite of these difficult times. And I'd like to pay tribute straight away to Catherine, who's worked hard throughout this COVID lockdown to look after us and make sure we continue as near to possible as we can. I also want to thank Andy Taplin, who's been a real great help with the IT while we've been learning how to do this Zooming. So thank you, Andy, for being there for us to support us. Much appreciated for giving up your time and to give up your time every week for the volunteers as well. Also, just to mention, we need to thank Andy Parrott for continuing to manage our parish council website and to update the village distribution list. We now have this group of community support volunteers who back in March, as Giles said, stepped forward to look after all those in the village who needed help. And I think that's worked very well. So thank you to all of those on behalf of the village. Thank you. And I just mentioned that during normal times, this annual parish council meeting that we're holding at the moment would follow on immediately after the village's annual parish meeting. And it's at that meeting we hear from representatives of various village organisations, as you all know, who summarise what they've been up to for the last 12 months. And it's not appropriate to hold that annual parish meeting tonight for obvious reasons. And there is actually no legal requirement any longer to have one this year in view of COVID. But I think perhaps we ought to consider at some stage looking to revisit the possibility of having an APM, an annual parish meeting, when some normality returns. As I say, we don't actually have to have one this year at all, but we might want to consider doing so. So finally, just to say that during this coming year, we'll all continue to do everything we can to care for the village and for our parishioners. That goes without saying. And I've just highlighted here a few things that we can look towards doing. And that's, as Ros has said, seeing if we can improve the parking in Wepstead Road, redistributing our updated emergency plan, deliver our survey that Giles suggested on how we can improve things in Hawstead by asking the residents. We'll also endeavour to recommence speed watch as soon as we can to deter speeding through the village. And we can also get that Jammy Dodgers volunteer group properly up and running. So despite all the difficulties caused by COVID, let's all together resolve to get things done over this next 12 months. And there's a few things that I've mentioned there that we can be getting on with. So just to close, finally, thank you all for asking me to be chairman again. And it won't happen again, actually, because I think that 10 years is plenty. So as I said before, so thank you. That's what I wanted to say. On to the correspondence. Can we go through this pretty well on block as well?
Good night, all. Thank you,
Michael.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And it's just noting that that's there. There is the temporary walking routes information.
Yeah.
Has that all been dealt with in the Village Voice, or?
It has, but
Yeah.
my suggestion is it might be an idea if we could drop a line to Rupert. I don't know what everyone thinks about that, just to thank him for offering to open up those 2 temporary walking routes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. There was a little explanatory letter about the monument renovations from the church that seems to be on track to happen before September. I think they're going to get the work done. They're still looking at other sources of funding, but didn't indicate that they'd be coming back to us to look for more from us or from the council. Who knows?
Okay. Okay.
And there was the message on very thick cream notepaper from the Queen, the Countess of Euston.
We
Lovely.
don't get a letter from the Queen every day, do we?
No.
Bit framed.
Okay, so we're happy to say that we formally looked at all that correspondence and approve or to note it all.
Just to note it. I
Is
think.
that sufficient? Good. Okay, well, the date of the next meeting is looks like the second Thursday in July, Catherine. That would be right, wouldn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And whether we'll be Zooming or whether we'll be meeting remains to be seen. So unless anyone has anything else, shall we sign off? And
could I just stay on with Henry and Ros to sort out the payments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you would say that.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bye. Bye-bye.
I better be careful what I press in case I close the meeting or something. I'll leave it for a while.